Hello, hello, students. Is it strange that I've had the Jurassic Park theme music from the movies in my head for about 25 years? Maybe it is strange. Turn to page 255 in Seow's A Grammar for Biblical Hebrew. Lesson 23. This chapter is kind of a doozy. And at this point in your study through the book may come off as a very difficult chapter, not because the concept is so difficult, but because by this point in the grammar, the concepts have started to pile up, kind of like a giant, like some game where you pile blocks on top of each other. I was going to say like Jenga, but the game Jenga really isn't about stacking blocks up until they fall, but rather about taking blocks out of the stack once it's already up. So the analogy isn't quite right. But, if you played a game with Jenga-like blocks in which you stack something up really high, the higher you start to get, the whole thing starts to get shaky. And those last few blocks you put on the top are liable to break you, And I realize we're getting to that point in the grammar, but you need to take a deep breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth, times 100 per day, intentionally, outside of your normal breathing. And you need to buckle down and memorize stuff, okay? That's the only way to do this at a certain point. Lesson 23, the call infinitive construct. We had an infinitive absolute, right? That was in our last lesson. The infinitive absolute, like harag. Harag means he killed. Harog, the infinitive absolute, could mean slaying or killing, like a verbal noun with an ing. It could also be used with another form of the verb to mean that something will surely happen, like the phrase moth tamuth. Moth there would be the infinitive absolute of mem, vav, tav, and then tamuth is just the second masculine singular imperfect. So moth tamuth, infinitive absolute plus imperfect, means you shall surely die, okay? This call infinitive construct is going to express a much simpler concept, namely the idea to do something. So like page 255, 1a at the top, shamar means he kept. Shamor, infinitive absolute, might mean keeping. Yishmor, imperfect, he will keep. Vayishmor, verb consecutive, vayiktul form, and he kept. Right? The shamar, the katal form, the plus perfect could mean and he will keep. Shamor, infinitive construct here, means to keep. Can even have some overlap with the infinitive absolute, meaning keeping. Okay? Shamor, to keep. Bechor, to choose. And a lot of times, in fact, if you turn the page here, this is what you'll see most frequently. Where does he do this? Oh no, turn to page 259 really quick. This is really how you end up seeing this, page 259E. 259E. Very frequently, the infinitive construct goes together with a with a preposition like le or be or ke. In fact, 258 and 259. He really starts this on page 258B. Oftentimes you'll have a le before the infinitive construct. So look at Genesis 12:5, page 258, 3b, Genesis 12:5. Lalachet artsa Canaan, excuse me. Lalachet artsa Canaan. To go. Lechet is the infinitive construct of halach. You're like, hey, that's not the form we started with on page 255. I know, well, when you have a first hey verb which behaves like a first W, you get some changes. Sorry. So it would be lechet, but la lechet. To go, artsa, with the directive hey, to the land of Canaan. Okay. Or right above it, Exodus 3:4, sar lir'oth. Sar lir'oth. He turned aside, sar, call perfect, lir'oth, from the root ra'ah, to see, lir'oth. Ra'oth would be the infinitive construct form. You put a lamed on the beginning. It even emphasizes more clearly this notion of to see, okay? So that's how that works. That is why way early on when we learned our very first verbs in the vocab sections of Seow, when he would put like, shamar and he would say to keep, I would say, well, shamar actually means he kept, right? It's the call perfect third masculine singular. Shamar, he kept. And there's a way to say to keep, and it's not that. That's why I said that. Because there is actually this thing called the infinitive construct. It'd be shamor, to keep. So shamor actually means to keep. Or lishmor means to keep. Not shamar, which means he kept. Does that make sense now, maybe, at a distance? Okay. So what is this lesson then? Well, he gives you a bunch of forms, right? On pages 255 through the first half of 258. How does this work with the strong verb? How does this work with weak verbs? How does this work with suffixes? Yeah, they often put suffixes on these. Infinitives absolute don't take a suffix, but the infinitive construct does. Page 255, 1b, 1. The infinitive construct usually becomes kotal before a suffix, but before the second masculine singular and second masculine plural, it's katol. Notice here that the comets, what is normally a long A, becomes O because it's going to end up being in a closed, unaccented syllable. So, shamor, to keep, you put a first common singular suffix on it, becomes shomri, shomri, my keeping. Omdi, my standing. Ochli, my eating. Shamorcha, your keeping. Notice where the accent is there on the cha, therefore comets is in a closed, unaccented syllable. Shamor, shamorcha. Amodcha, your standing. Acholcha, your eating. Do you see how that works with a suffix? So it means like eating, standing, keeping, something, but with a suffix then, depending. You may say to yourself, oh man, the infinitive construct with a suffix looks exactly like the perfect with a suffix. What? Turn back to page 193. And what will you find? You will find that yes, it does actually look very similar to the call imperfect, or the call perfect with object suffixes.